Sauer, Libertarian economist, president of the Market Institute, author of a forthcoming book, Profit Motive, What Drives the Things We Do. MarketInstitute.org is the website, and you can tweet him at Charles Sauer, S-A-U-E-R, or at Market Institute. Charles, welcome back to the program. It's been a while. Charles?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you now. There you go.
All right.
Welcome back. I wanted to ask you how libertarians deal with this issue of education. We have an educational system now that is all over the place. We've got free schools, free public schools. We've got subsidized charter schools. We've got paid private schools. We've got colleges that are, in some places, locally subsidized and free. We've got colleges that are just obscenely expensive. We've got for-profit education. And then on top of that, for the people who go to college, we've got some really expensive college debt, 6, 7, 8% loans in a time when banks can borrow money at 1.5%, which seems insane to me. Why are we doing this to our kids? My position as an American, not as a libertarian, would be that we should invest in our children. Our most important infrastructure is our intellectual infrastructure. As Jefferson repeatedly pointed out, without an educated populace, you can't even have a functioning democracy. And therefore, it is the job of all of us to make sure that everybody is educated to the peak of their potential at no cost to them. So all schools should be free, and we should do away with even the concept of student loans. How do libertarians approach this? And do you agree that, with Jefferson and me, that, having a well-educated populace is an essential element of a functioning society?
Well, see, I agreed with you right until your conclusion, right? So you are correct. Education is unbelievably important. There's a book by one of my friends out called Hive Mind that actually proves that as education of a society increases, so does the GDP of those communities. But
Right.
The fact is that where we differ is how you actually create that. So, you support the teachers' unions, and the profit motive behind the teachers' unions doesn't have anything to do with education, and rightfully so.
The teachers' union is a nonprofit democratic institution. There is no profit associated with the teachers' union.
That is completely false. There is profit all throughout that. They take the money from the teachers and then they spend it on salaries from person to person to person. That's actually
That's not profit, Charles. Profit is the money.
Profit.
Hey, no, Econ 101. Profit is the money that's left over after your operations. And nonprofit organizations, they call it a fund balance, but they can't distribute it to the owners. You're talking about salaries and wages, not profits.
No, I'm talking about benefit. I'm talking about the actual definition of profit, though, not the politicized one. If you want to politicize education, you can. I believe that we should provide a strong education to our students, and that means setting the market free, not having a mass of taxpayers pay for individual students where the parents of the students no longer have a say. It's like buying a Snickers bar and having somebody else eat it. You don't know what the product does. If you buy a Snickers bar and eat it and it's bad, then you can move on. But the way that the left supports the education system is by saying it doesn't matter. We want the teachers to have all of the power and the parents and the students to not have any of it.
No, nobody's saying that at all. That's a straw man argument, number one. And number two, the broad availability of Snickers bars is not essential to democracy. I'm talking about this is an appropriate definition of the commons. Where do libertarians draw the line? I'm assuming that you think that we should have, at the very least, paid police and fire departments?
Yeah, no, you want paid police and fire departments? I might even be for
taxes.
Public education because education is important. But what we need to do with public education is something like what they did in D.C. and the left tried to shut down, and that's give students vouchers so that they could actually move from the failing schools into the productive schools. And, of course, President Obama, when he was in, opposed that, and it's something that Speaker Boehner stood up for. It was one of the few votes that he took. And the demand within D.C. parents. Well, the
problem with that example, Charles, and you and I both lived in D.C. I lived in D.C. You live there now. So, we're familiar with this. The problem with that, it was that two different issues got mixed up in that debate. And the main Democratic opposition was not to figuring out a way that kids can choose which school they want to go to. It was that one of the choices was taxpayer subsidized religious and for-profit schools. That was the objection. And I support that objection.
As much as you want. You can equivocate as much as you want. The point is that the left stood against student choice in that. Students wanted to go to better schools. And you can take out one of the choices, but the fact is that they were able to move around the district and go to well-performing schools.
But it sounds like you're still arguing in favor of fully subsidized, at least primary education. And if that's the case, how can you call yourself a libertarian? I mean, David Koch ran for vice president in 1980 on a campaign of ending all public education. He said that the state schools simply indoctrinate students to be good citizens of the state, rather than good libertarians.
I didn't advocate for it. I said it's a possibility. The fact is if we can give students vouchers where they can vote, we've at least added free market policies to the thing.
But why would you do that to the Commons? What free market policy are you going to bring to the fire department?
I know that you want to give all the power to the teachers unions because that's the biggest voting block that you have left. Once
you can shout unions all day long. This is not about unions. It is. Unions are democracies in the workplace. Teachers, just like any other worker, should have the right to stand up to their employer if they feel that their working conditions are inappropriate, and they should have the right to collectively bargain their compensation. The fact that their employer is we the people, is the government, doesn't mean that there aren't bad bureaucrats who are total pains in the butt that individual teachers should have the power of a union behind them to go up against. But let's not make this a debate about whether teachers' unions should exist, Charles.
It actually, this is the point, Tom. You're saying that the Commons doesn't matter when it comes to defending the rights of the teachers. You're making that point. What I'm saying is that the teachers' rights
I'm separating. I'm saying the teachers are employees.
They can't be separated. You don't
teachers
care about
are
the Commons
employees.
When it comes to the teacher.
Teachers are employees. And as employees, they should have the rights that employees should have in this country to collectively bargain. But that's a whole separate debate, in which I'm pleased to have with you, and I think we just did, from whether we should have debt-free education and everybody should be able to just go to school and learn to the maximum of their intellectual capability without incurring any debt and without having substantial expenses. And I don't see any libertarian way to accomplish that. Your school voucher example from D.C. was still federal money in the case of D.C., or it would have been state money if it was local or county money, was still taxpayer money. Where is the libertarian argument outside of David Koch's argument that, there simply shouldn't be any public education, the rich should be able to go to school, and everybody else, tough luck, Charlie? I mean, isn't that the official libertarian position?
Look, I know that, you want to, when you obscure the funding, because school is not debt-free. You can go to any website, that says the debt ticker, I think it's debtticker.com, and see the debt actually raising. So what I want to do is actually put free market controls on that, where people are deciding where the best value is. And when you remove that and let unions control it, despite what the Commons need, which is good education. Again, you and I agree that education is what society needs. Where we disagree is on the best way to do it. And I know that you want to side with the workers and teachers over the kids, but I want to support my future kids' debt, and that is by reducing spending now. And we do that through competition, Tom.
So you have not yet answered my question, Charles.
All right, go one more time. I'll answer it.
How do libertarians recommend that everybody in America be able to get educated regardless of their economic status? How do you do that? How is a kid in a poor neighborhood, whether it's Detroit or Appalachia, how does a kid from a poor neighborhood or from a poor family whose parents can't afford private school, how do they get a decent education if public schools are defunded the way you're suggesting, or even if they have the choice between 2 or 3 local public? And by the way, in large swaths of America, there's you got small towns that have 1 school.
Yeah, that's true, but you're just wipe that out when you don't want to let kids possibly move around and vote with their feet. And that's the reason people are willing to stay in that bad school, because if they move to another district, they might be stuck with that bad school.
So you don't have a way to fund this, bottom line.
No, the fact that you can't move from where we're at, which is a fully funded public education system, to not funding it. We need a bridge. And what I'm talking about is the bridge. And this is something the left should use more often. They should follow the profit motives of the market, and they should figure out how to give the best public education they can. And right now they're not. They're just empowering teachers to abuse our kids and put us in more debt.
Okay, Charles, I'll leave you with the last word. Charles Sauer, libertarian economist and president of the Market Institute. MarketInstitute.org is the website. He has a new book coming out, if you're inclined. Profit Motive, What Drives the Things We Do. You can tweet him at Charles Sauer, S-A-U-E-R. Charles, thanks for dropping by today.
Thank you, Tom.
Good talking with you. We'll be back.